A gentle lullaby begins this tale, and from this music the world was formed, the world of the seven seas, a place that was covered entirely in water, and you could travel across it for years and years under its moons and stars, and you would always be able to find new islands to explore or creatures to see and be fascinated with. Now, this place was ruled over by three beings known as the Man in Black, the Man in Gray, and the Man in White, and they watched over the music. We will be speaking about them later, but for right now, let us take a look at the creatures that lived on all of these islands. Oh, all the creatures of Daydream were here. Giants, ghosts, sea monsters, mermaids, fairies, and talking animals. Now, talking animals, there's actually one in particular that I would like to tell you about, and he lived on this island of talking cats. Now, the talking cats, they were, of course, cats. They liked all the things cats like. Playing with yarn, drinking milk, catching fish from the stream, meowing, especially meowing. But these were intellectual cats. They studied the cosmos. They studied the world that they lived in and tried to puzzle it all out. And they formed themselves into groups. There were ones that studied history, science, astronomy, art, music, mathematics, and literature. And all of these cats, they got along together in peace. And they actually did live under this big clock in the middle of the island. It went tick, 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 and they all sort of saw that as their monument. They were all trying to solve all the mysteries before time ran out. Now, I'm getting off track. Because the cat that I wanted to discuss that lived on this island and would eventually be leaving it was a cat by the name of Rogers. Now, Rogers could be a little bit grumpy sometimes. He didn't like any of these subjects that the cats were studying. He thought history was so far in the past. Who wanted to keep looking back in time? And astronomy? We can't even reach those stars. They're too far away. Science was too loud with all the exploding chemicals and the smoke and all those creations that those cats could make. It didn't interest him. Literature, well, he loved to read a book, but sometimes sitting around reading books could get rather boring, and he wanted to do something else. Music, well, he always got himself caught up in the strings. Art, well, it did mat up his fur with paint. He got paint all over his whiskers. He couldn't be doing that all of the time. And then all the other subjects that they studied, he didn't really want to do too. Especially math. Math was far too complicated for him. Now all the other cats were grumpy with him and said that he needed to study. He needed to study and do his work. But Roger, he was in love with adventure. He wanted to go out there and see the world and see what other creatures lived on all those islands, under all those stars, and under that great moon. And it was hard for him to leave. He had his brother and his father there. And, they'd always been a good father and brother to him. But, of course, the call for adventure proved to be too strong for him. And in secret, he began making himself a boat. And it was a very big boat, a very nice boat, with a little living room, a little fireside, a little shelf of books, and a little thing to paint with, and some jam, and a good many coats, with some very nice buttons on them, and even a place to make tea, and all sorts of stuff on that boat. He had all the stuff needed for, in his opinion, in order to survive. And finally, one day, it was one night, when it was the new moon, the moon was at its full, he decided he was going to set off. And so he pushed the boat away from the island and he set sail, off for new adventures, whatever they may be.